This day of your life will never come again. It will never come again. We will never have an opportunity to be with each other ever again like this. You'll never wake up the same way or go to sleep with the same day. One word that big destroys you or resurrects you. One word. That's all. One word. This is how powerful you are. One word can change or break your life. You know, as the years go by and you teach a lot, and for me teaching is a sacred passion, the way I think medicine is for physicians or whatever. But it's a passion, it's a calling. And so the passing on of knowledge is something that I consider to be one of the reasons I was born. And so when I am, I make it my way to always, you know, as the years have gone by, you accumulate more and more and more and more knowledge, and then as you put together something to say to people when you walk into a classroom, it's as if eventually this archive lines up in your head and it fights for space. And it all wants to come out at once. And so you begin to have to be very discerning about what can I say to people in 90 minutes that will actually matter to them for the rest of their life. And that's a question that I ask as a teacher, because the passing on of that quality of knowledge to you matters to me. I don't want to waste your time. And I don't want to waste the gift of having your life sitting with me even for 90 minutes. Because one of the greatest prayers that I ever came across, which is now one of my daily reminders, is that this day of your life will never come again. It will never come again. We will never have an opportunity to be with each other ever again like this. That is a huge truth to dwell in. You'll never wake up the same way or go to sleep with the same day. You'll never see the people you love in the same light as you will in the moment that you're looking at them. That's what it means to be at a crossroads. It means you come to a realization that is so huge that you decide to follow that realization down a different path. It's crossed a path with you. And it is so enormous that it takes your soul and you follow it. This day will never come again. I've lived so out of that realization that I am now going to live with that realization. And it has changed my life. And it makes me look at you with such appreciation, because you could have put this day anywhere, but you've chosen a part of it with me. So I'm going to share perspectives with you that I hope will be significant, and again will be for you the type of crossroads that will go past your mind a little bit and into your soul. Why do I want to aim at your soul? Because your mind is rational, and I'm not going to speak to you about things that are necessarily rational. I want to go into some areas that are, in fact, trans-rational, above the ordinary, above the logical, because there is not much that is logical anymore. Certainly not the way at the ordinary life plane. Especially the way you are designed. And if you want to understand the fullness of who you are today and of what is happening in our world today, you really must look at yourself from a position that is greater than logic. You have to understand yourself through the unthinkable, which is that you have become a multi-sensory human being living at a time of great transformation, but you've got to understand what that means. This is a vocabulary that's been tossed around now for almost 50 years, almost half a century. But you know, if my two navigating tools are history. I've read military history since I was 9 years old. I've never not been reading military history. And my parents thought I was going to be like a general or something. It just turned out I developed the personality of one, but I never became one. I have none of the benefits, you know. But the other is the story, the area of theology. So it's like military and theology, heaven and hell, as it were. The battles within us and the battles above us. Nothing could be a more perfect combination. Nothing. I don't know any human being who has not waged war within, around, up here. I don't know any human being who hasn't sought for reasons for why things happen as they do. And that's a question that goes straight up. I don't know any human being who hasn't strategized how to take over an enemy. I don't know any human being who hasn't felt as a prisoner of war somehow, whether in their mind or in their wounds. So nothing has made a more useful combination for me than the study of the military in us and the quest for God, because both are equally irrational. Now, what you need to understand about today is, first of all, it's a privilege to be alive now. It's a privilege. Why is that? Because we are living at the greatest moment in the history of civilization. This is a big word to pull out, civilization. I'm a wordsmith. If I use a word, I'm doing it deliberately. Now I'm going to hit a pause button there. We're going to go right back to that, but I'm going to come over here. When the Renaissance began, there was no beginning point. Well, sort of, but maybe. But we'll leave that. But let's just say that when the Renaissance started to grow out of the Dark Ages, people didn't sit around and say, I think we're in the Renaissance now. Do you think so? Let me test the wind, okay? It didn't happen like that. It took years before people recognized that a different era had happened, that a Michelangelo and a Da Vinci and a Christopher Wren and a Raphael and a Shakespeare and all of these unbelievable souls had ushered in a wave of transformation that had elevated human thought again, that a printing press had been that the literary world was growing, that all of this was happening. But at the time, when the Sistine Chapel's getting painted and Bernini's chopping away at the marble and doing statues all over Rome that are breathtakingly gorgeous, the individuals were not thinking, I think there's a new trend. I think. At that time, they weren't thinking. Galileo, Copernicus were not thinking when they looked up and Galileo said, I'm going to burn for this. They were not thinking that we are now entering a new time where we will now enter the age where reason will reorder the whole universe and how we see God and how we do everything. It would take a long time, decades, before they could look back and say, wow, look at how different things are now than they were then. In that same way, we are not able to actually appreciate the fullness of what we are living because we can't see that big. and we're not looking that big. But if we could look that big, what would we see? If we could go to the future 50 years instead of looking back, and then look back at us. I could hear my microphone. And then look back at us and think, what will historians write about us? About us. About the way we understood ourselves as we navigated these incredible decades in the transition that we are living from the era of fossil fuel to the era of nuclear, and how that has changed us. For what we are undergoing is the most profound change in the history of the human species. I'm going to say that again, and you're living it. And it is so big that you can't see it. It's so huge you can't feel it. And what's more is you have grown so accustomed to the impact that you've adjusted to it without even realizing what you have adjusted to. You've grown so accustomed to the phenomenon that you don't even get you are living it. To wit, when we went, the two wheels that have always driven the human being since the beginning of human being, you see it on the caves. You see it on the caves. Our symbols for that we are driven by the need to create life, to create fire, to create wheel, to create. And the need to survive, the spear, how to fight an animal, how to make food. The need to create and the need to survive. The need to create, no matter what has ever happened in human history, no matter what, no matter the size of the dagger, the size of the spear, the size of the cannon once created, to the howitzer, to the flying weapons called planes and bombs. No matter how devastated the fields of Europe or the fields of China or the fields of... we human beings would rise out of the ashes and say, we will survive. And then we created nuclear weapons. And we became the planet that said, maybe we will survive. We added a maybe. The caveat started. Maybe. For the first time in the history of humanity, we had to rewrite the myth of human life. We had to rewrite the myth. What was the myth? Prometheus stole the fire from Zeus. And Zeus said, I'll get you again this time, and sent down Pandora. And the Pandora box that we opened in the 1940s when we created the bomb. And from that point on, the history of ourselves has become a history of who has the fire. Soviet Union, now Russia, and then it's North Korea, India, Pakistan, and now terrorists. Who has the fire? What are we going to do with Iran if it gets the fire? The whole world's spinning and looking at Iran now. And you have grown numb to it. You don't even think about it. You've grown numb. I don't care who has the fire, what's for lunch. And what you don't get is that's altered your sense of survival in big and in large ways as a human being. It's filtered into you. Oh, yes, it has. It has put us all at a crossroads. It has filtered into our instincts and into our humanitarian nature. Because we don't know if we're going to survive. It's not conscious, and it is conscious. At the level that it is conscious, we talk about it, but we dismiss it because we still think in some way that there is something up in the sky that will sweep down and save us at the last minute. Maybe some off-planet God. Maybe some, I see it in people who believe in that everything from the sky is good, so they think an extraterrestrial will do it. But they think, no, the unthinkable can't really happen. We aren't that stupid that we would nuke our own nest. Oh, yes, we are. Yeah, we're that stupid and we're worse. And then the creativity in us has disintegrated because we're not sure of our survival. We're not sure. Now, these aren't conscious. It's not, excuse me, I have a technical difficulty. It's not like we're conscious of it in the sense of, now that I'm not sure if we're going to survive, I think that I will do things on the creative that are not quite as integrous as the way my elders have done them. I think I won't pour as much consciousness into how I build new construction. I think I won't build things to last the way my elders did. When my elders built buildings, they did it with such pride, with the intention that they would last a century or more. Now they don't care if they last a decade. Why? Because survival is no longer an issue. Conscious or not, it does not matter. It does not matter. Well, what about relationships? Well, now let's break it down. Before the nuclear age, it was assumed you got in a relationship for the distance to survive. If you turn back the clock before the nuclear age, and you said to someone, well, we're in relationship. We are sharing, we're in this type of relationship. We are relating. Or we are sharing an apartment. If we're a little more serious, we bought one together. We co-bought. We're a co-bought relationship. What does that mean? Well, it's a little bit serious, but not really serious. Because we're committed to a mortgage, but not really each other. It looks like, smells like a real commitment, but it's not. It's a bank commitment. It's a wallet commitment, but it's not really a commitment because we can still get out of it with minimal damage. It's not a commitment at all. It's a commitment in the nuclear age, which means we don't believe anything lasts at all. Zero. Nothing goes the distance. Because this is what we've created. A world where we have a sense that relationships don't survive, commitments don't survive, buildings don't survive, jobs don't survive. Our whole survival mechanism. Families don't survive. And as a result of that, well, now let's keep going here. Because everything's a domino. You stand at a crossroads. And you think, well, what difference does it make? I had a relationship today. How long is your relationship? 6 weeks. How long have you been dating him? 6 weeks? Hey, that's pretty long. Wow, 6 weeks. Now, before the nuclear age, if you had seen somebody for 6 weeks, well, my God, you still would barely be holding hands. Because that would be, and now here's a word nobody uses anymore because we've extricated so much from our vocabulary. You would be courting. Here today, if you use the word court, you need a lawyer. But then it was courtship. And you would court. And the idea that you would tell somebody about so many personal things within the first date, much less let them touch you anywhere, was incomprehensible. Because that wasn't the road to survival. It wasn't the road to survival at all. It was done very differently. Now it's like, let me see, I got 3 minutes on the internet. See the difference here? Do I want to survive with you, for you? Fill this out. And do you ever use the word cherish? I need someone to cherish. I don't have someone fill out a piece of paper to see if I could cherish them. What in the world would be more preposterous to my soul? How could anyone fill out a piece of paper? I have to trust my soul. A piece of paper? Get this out of here. Get this out of here. That's for amateurs who don't know how to survive, who don't trust their soul, who've gone into earth panic attacks. You're living a panic attack. You don't know what you're doing anymore. You can't go the spiritual route and then have these survival. You have completely crossed your wires. But this is the world we live in now. Are you with me? The madness we've created, I'll beyond madness. Okay. Okay. There. Are we better? Because it was driving me nuts, and if it drives me nuts, you don't want to ever drive me nuts. Because you know what? I'm past the age where I care what I do. Okay. There we go. That's much better. Okay, now. So let's talk about what that all means for you. First, in this new land that you live in, these are the things you need to understand about yourself. In all my years as a medical intuitive and then a teacher and et cetera, these are observations I've made that are probably worth listening to. I observe more that people don't heal than they do, which is real interesting to me. 2, and I'll get to why in a minute. 2 is I can't tell anymore if people are honest. I started out thinking, you know, when the 60s I was a little girl in the 60s, I just want to be clear here. But, you know, this whole movement that is no longer a movement, but what you call the consciousness, whatever this is, you know that it began by a spiritual revolution. And in that spiritual revolution, people started to feel like they could go, you know, find meditation and express themselves spiritually. And this was a really interesting time because it opened up, you're here because of that. And it opened up permission for so many people to begin to a search for literature, for prayer, for all kinds of ways, like the way the Beatles went to the East and introduced the life of the Hinduism and Krishna, and et cetera. Now, here's what happened that I think it was so much potential to get out of religion, the politics of God, and into the mystical yumminess of the divine. But somewhere along the line, we put a break on that. We put a break on that. And we said, this is as far as we're going. And we reversed it, and we stopped. And the wires of spirituality got woven into the quest for healing and the quest for the search of the inner self. And that became one and the same thing. People started to ask questions like, I wonder for what reason I was born. Any of you? Who's never asked that question? Okay, I'm going to do this again. How many of you have asked that question? Okay, thank you. Now this is very important, guys, because nobody would have asked that question very casually before the nuclear age. So that's a defining characteristic of who you are. And from that, you identified a part of yourself that you would call your inner self. Agreed? Yes. How many of you have no sense whatsoever of your inner self? Okay. How many of you refer to your inner self for guidance? Okay. Now then, this is going to pinch. Now we're going to get into pinch material. And this is important because here are the anomalies of our age. One is, we've considered ourselves the consciousness age, and we've never been more deceitful. We've never been more dishonest. We're the people who have to go to a therapist to figure out how to say the truth. We're the people who created the body-mind-spirit template, where we talk about how attitudes have an impact on our health, but that's where we leave it. We never say, oh, they should have an impact on everything then, duh, and they should have an impact on the way we do business, on the way we make decisions in our family. And what about lies? Do lies have an impact on anything? What about being deceitful? What about telling the truth in everyday conversation? Does it matter if I do that? I've never read a book ever that says the impact of being a liar on my health. The inability to tell the truth and why I can't heal cancer. The inability of healing cancer and being someone who betrays constantly, who can't give my word and keep it. I say, yes, I will keep your confidence, and 2 minutes later, all I can think about is who I will tell. I betray one after another, and I wonder why my spirit is not strong enough to take on cancer, to take on anything. But I'm the first person to say there's no darkness in the world. What do you think that is, if not a partnership with darkness? What do you think darkness is? How do you think darkness works? You think you love angels, I know that. This is how darkness works. It tells you it's okay to do that. It gives you all kinds of excuses. They'll tell you you're not lying. That's not a lie. What is it? What do you think it is? Hurting, saying, tell yourself whatever you want to say. I think I'll protect them. I'll protect them. Okay? And this is supposed to be the age of consciousness, when exactly what you're supposed to be conscious of is the consequences of your actions and how much they affect your biology, your psyche, your soul. That everything you do has a consequence, and everything you say. And the only thing people ever apply it to is cancer at the end of the day, when they're in trouble, in the emergency room. Otherwise, they're like in a blank field. Just like that. It is astounding to me. Astounding. So here, when I look at people, when I think about being at the cross, where you need to look at yourself, is you now need to understand something. Whether or not you like it, the rules for your life have changed. It doesn't matter what you agree to anymore. The rules have changed. We are now living in the nuclear era, which means the nuclear era of consciousness. Whether or not you like it is of no consequence at all. These are the rules. One, you are not a five-sensory human being. You have multiple senses. It's irrelevant whether or not you accept it. Your choice does not matter anymore. You know what Teresa of Avila, this is kind of humbling, but get used to it. One of the things the birth of the inner self did was it absolutely exacerbated narcissism. It gave it a whole new position. Our inner self, my inner self tells me, your inner self tells you what? Tell me what your inner self tells you. And what you realize is your inner self is your new best friend. Because your inner self gives you permission to tell the truth in a way that you can't say it most often publicly. If you ever say to somebody, well, you know, my inner self doesn't really feel this way, it's because you can't tell the truth up front, and you're using your inner self as a vessel, and you don't have the courage to say it directly. So stop using your inner self that way. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? It means that what people often do now is they'll use their inner self as a spokesperson, because nobody will say, it's very rare that someone will say, well, if it's because the inner self is kind of like, you got it on the inner as if God's talking to you. So if you say to someone, oh, well, if it's your inner self, then I better respect that. So if you said, I got it on the inner, I'm not supposed to go there tonight. Oh, well, in that case, I'll clean up your mess. I'll do everything because you're not supposed to go there, and that makes your irresponsibility totally okay because you got it on the inner. Instead of you point blank saying, you know what, I don't want to go. I don't want to clean up my own mess. I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm a child. And I screwed up. La, 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 la. I did it again, and I want to figure out a way to manipulate you. But I'm not honest enough to do that, so I'm going to pull out the inner self gig. And I'm going to say, God's making me stay home. Because that's what we use the inner self for. Because it's very difficult for us to be direct and to be honest about our feelings. Because part of what becoming conscious is about is becoming honest about your feelings. Why? Because you are putting two together that health requires that type of integrity. You see what I'm saying? But you're also beginning to get that in order to be that type of integrous person, your life is going to change. And that the way in which you live with other people, the way in which you live with yourself, means that it all goes hand in hand with you becoming clear about what intuition actually is. You as a functioning intuitive person, the way your intuitive system operates is not something you develop for a profession. Gee, I want to be a professional intuitive, and the moment I walk out of there, I'll just go back to living a deceitful life. It doesn't work that way. You are an intuitive system. You have spiritual intuition. You have emotional intuition. You have intellectual intuition. You are born to sense the world around you. You're born to sense it. It's not a gift. You did not get it from your grandmother, avoiding your mother somehow in the scene. You were born this way. You were born with gut survival intuition. You were born with an automatic impulse in you that somewhere in your late 30s, You would begin late 30s or early 40s to wonder, what's the purpose of my life here? Why? Because in your teens and your early 20s and 30s, your role here is to figure out how to physically survive, physically. How to mate with someone. That's when you're going to have your babies. That's when you contribute physically to the species. I don't have my babies now. I need to do something productive with the species. But after all that groundwork, and that's when your gut intuition's at its strongest. Should I lay my roots here? Your gut, you don't need a high voltage visionary unless you're Abram going to start Israel. You don't need all that kind of high stuff. You need basic gut stuff. And you have that. Is this a strong bridge? Is this guy a jerk? This guy will look at a woman. Is she going to make a solid partner? You need this stuff. And it's already up and running in you. Is it safe to walk down this alley? Is it safe to be out at this hour? You don't need to be a vegetarian to have that kind of intuition working. You understand me? You need your grandmother beating drums in the backyard. You got this up and running. What you need is to believe in yourself and have the courage to act on it. I've got a very sharp intuitive system, not because of anything more than I respect myself. I respect myself. That's number one. Number two, I will live with the consequences of the decisions I make. And I don't have any problem with that. None. I don't need someone else's approval. There's a lot of freedom in that. If you're stuck with what will they say, that's not a question I ask myself. I ask, how much is this? But I don't ask, what will they say? I don't have any respect for they. You want clear intuition. You stop it. You stop asking that obscene question. It is spiritually obscene. It is spiritual pornography in your psyche. The only question you ever ask is, what is it you ask of me today? What is unfolding in your life? You don't cloud it with what will they say. And don't you ever be someone else's audience, hoping they worry about what you will say. Do you understand what I just told you? So that's your survival intuition. When you're later, you will start asking, if I was your spiritual director, which I am, I am a spiritual, I know that I'll hit a button, I'll give you a map of your life, and say, now this is when this is going to happen. Right about here, somewhere in your late 30s, early 40s, you're going to have a crisis. So brace yourself. And when it happens, don't want to see any of your whining. I can't stand whining. I can't stand it. I don't want any of your whining. But what's going to happen is you're going to lose your appetite for the life you have. You're going to lose it. You're going to lose it. So don't come in here and say what's happening to me. Because I'm telling you what's happening, and I'm telling you to expect it. So just put it right there. Lose appetite for my life. Because it's going to happen. And I see a lot of you, you've already passed these years. I got more surprises for you, so don't think all the good times are over. Because this is nature's way. This is the God in you. This is how nature, the divine in you. This is organic divinity. Because you're supposed to lose your appetite for the first part of your life, so the second part can come up. And the second part is you develop your appetite to give. Your first appetite is to take. Your second is to give. So you start asking, what's the meaning here? There's got to be more. Yeah, there is. There's more. The first part of your life is all about me, 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 me. And then life has to slap you around. So you stop thinking you're the center of the universe. Because you're not, and you never will be. You need to humble up. You need to humble up. So you need a humbling experience. It's not pretty, it's not pleasant, but you'll live through it. You got to, in other words, get over yourself so you can get into yourself. And then comes, what do you want to give? And unless you understand that that's the next stage, the crossroads, the giving stage, where you find out what you're really worth in here. In here. That's when you have no idea what a jewel you are. That's when you really discover the spectacularness of you. Now, here is in the first years of your life, you put yourself together like show and tell. I want to show people, I want to tell them. I want to show them, I want to tell them. It's all about you. In the second half of your life, you're going to surprise yourself by discovering that others call from you gifts you do not see. Others call from you. Life will call from you gifts you do not know you have. And here, your ego heard me. But I'm not talking to your ego. I'm talking to the part of you that's not rational. I'm talking to the part of you that wouldn't even, the ego in you wouldn't even consider waiting in line for two days every week for people who have no legs so they can get their food. But the soul in you would do it. It's not rational. It's not a rational thing. But I know somebody who does that now. I know someone who does that in another country. Doesn't even think twice. But if you said to her mind, her brain, her ego, that's what you're going to end up doing. She would have said, I would never wait 2 days. Are you crazy? Because that's not a rational thing to do. And then her soul met the soul of someone with no legs and said, whoa, I'll take charge. Come here, I'll do this. Because it was soul rational. There was nothing more rational to the soul. For the soul sees things totally different. Your soul sees things totally different. There's nothing more rational. I will stand in line. And it didn't even think like standing in line, there's nothing. And this is when you discover the most irrational power you'll ever discover, which is the grace in your soul. Where did you get the energy to stand in line for 2 days? That was nothing. I didn't think about it. That's right, because it's not rational. You don't think about it. That's how grace works. It turns your brain off. You want to pray? Pray like you're crazy. Pray like you're crazy. Turn my brain off. Turn my intuition on. Turn my soul on. Turn my heart on. Turn my brain off. I've had enough of it. Turn my intellectual intuition on. Make me sharp as a laser. Sharp as a laser. Give me the instincts of a fox. But turn my ration. I'm just sick of that. It is my opposition. Pray like you're crazy. Like you've gone mad in all the right ways. All the right ways. You want to know how to strategize with your instincts in this world. Not with your mind. Eventually your mind, if you think it's sane here, look again. You know it's not. What you need is the strategy of your soul now. You need to know how to navigate with your instincts, which is why I'm telling you. This is a time when you have to start relying. You are living in two worlds. What your mind tells you and what your interior soul tells you, there's a real good chance you're going to have to choose sides. There's a real good chance you're going to have to choose sides. What you sense in the physical world and what you what you trust in the interior world. You can't have it both ways. You cannot. And it's not unlike the scientist in a lab now who's never worked with quantum physics, who's never worked with the energy world. But look at where you live. You live in the energy world now. You're addicted to your internet. You're addicted to your cell phones. You're addicted to the energy world. You're so in the energy world now that you have to bargain with yourself to be in the physical. You have to treat yourself to exercise. Come on, I promise I'll get you an exercise outfit. You have to sign yourself up to the gym. Come on, I promise I'll take you there. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Get on this machine. Come on, you can do it. You can't even push yourself to do a normal thing that human beings have done for hundreds of thousands of years, which is called walk. You call it exercise. You have to rename it. You have to have a water bottle here. Come on. Or a Starbucks. Soy. Low fat. Because I'm exercising. Not exorcising, exercising. No demon in me, don't believe in them. Are we walking for 1 hour? 1 hour, girls. 1 hour. Then we go have a coffee. We're so in shape. And now I feel good and I can sit on my arse all day. I eat birdseed. Make sure it's low-fat birdseed. Have a salad, dressing on the side. Is anyone looking? Give me that damn Snickers. Oh my God, I've seen so duplicate of these people everywhere. Jesus. Oh. They're the new Stepford wives. Oh, Mother of God. I can't even go near women and their salads. Really. Can I have this, but not this? Can I have this and put the dressing on the side? You know what I want to do? I want to go in the kitchen and say, she changed her order. She wants a double cheeseburger. Because that's what she really eats. I know it. 3 different cheeses. Saute the onions. Saute the mushrooms. Toast the bun. A lot of butter. She's lying about that stuff. Okay, a lot of fries, Yeah. Mix it with the sweet potato, the other ones. Yeah. Go ahead. And if she says she doesn't eat it, she gives you that face, pack it up and send it to her room. Girls, stop it. Okay. All right. So, you. I got you, right? You know, I'm just going to I'm going to talk about 2 things, medical intuition for a minute and healing, and then a little bit on Teresa of Avila and my experiences with that saint, because it all comes into this. I really, my life has been sort of formed by things that people say can't happen and can't exist and don't happen. So early on, I learned not to care about what anyone thought. And I don't mean that in a funny way. I mean, when I grew up I was educated by nuns in a convent and So I had the blessing of being with women whose lives were all about the impossible and miracles and et cetera. So that's the kind of environment I had. And the last thing that those women and that kind of environment was the question of, is there anything up? Is there anything down? That I never, ever, ever had to question anything. And the thing that really is the gift there is that from an early on, my rapport with the non-physical world was so easy that I used to wonder when I was a kid, how do you get by in your world not believing? How could you leave the house? How are you going to function in the world with being so frightened? That's what I used to think. It wasn't me. I never once questioned my sanity. I never once thought I was crazy because I knew I wasn't, but I used to think you were. And I used to think, how in the world do you survive one day of your life being so frightened? Because if anything, I was never, ever scared. Never, never, ever. Now, I will look you in the eye to the day I die and tell you I have never been frightened. Never. And though I cannot, although I will tell you there have been days when I wasn't sure what to do. And there were days when I have been depressed and sad and all of that, believe me, just like you, and days when I have faced illnesses where I thought I've had a terminal illness more than once, and all the other things that go along with life, and the crises of losing my brother to alcoholism, people I could not help in my own family with all of my skills and all of my capacity to pierce a veil and come back to the other side. Nevertheless, it changes nothing about what I tell you. That is absolutely the experiences I've had where I will stand in my truth and tell you that if I had to define what God is like, it is this: we live in a universe now, this nuclear consciousness, that is one of the changes that you are witnessing is that all the religions are coming down. And you are foolish, very foolish, to sit back and say, to look at it like from your emotional personality and say, oh yeah, well they should because look at that stupid priest and look at, no. You see with a historian's eye, not with an emotional 2-year-old. You recognize that the time has come where all the mythologies that have held these religions together are colliding in the sky. All of them. And they're coming down because none of those myths have kept up or evolved to match the sophistication of how we think anymore. They have not, there's no part of us, the way we understand the world in our minds, that can keep pace with the idea that there's 70 virgins after birth, or that God sent a son to be sacrificed. I don't know. You ask any fundamentalist the story of Jesus, and they actually don't know it. But what they do think is that somehow they're going to be saved, but they don't even know from what. The story has been so bastardized. So bastardized. It's all gone. What you're witnessing in the world is the end of stories that no longer work. But no, stop. This is nothing to applaud. You don't get the consequences. Let me just finish this, people. If I take one of your big stories away, you're not going to thank me. You're going to roll into a fetal position and say, what's going to replace it? This is where you come in. You're the replacement. So it is critical that you know what you believe. You cannot keep wandering around uncommitted to holy beliefs in yourself. This is not a show and tell down here. You cannot live in a world where you think it doesn't matter what you believe. It does. It does matter. Just like it's mattering to our world when beliefs people held are coming down. Look at what's happening. You're seeing a rise in barbarians all over the world. You're seeing a rise because this is the panic in the human soul. And you want to see panic? What's happening in the world? We had faith in banking system. You don't have faith in that anymore. You don't have faith. Our Constitution's coming down, the banking system. Every single thing you had faith in, you watch. You watch. You're not going to applaud when that happens. You're not going to say, oh, great, there goes the Constitution. Oh, great, there goes the banking system. These were the fundamental pillars of our society. You don't applaud when that happens. You got to know why it's happening. And what you've got to do is not sit back and say, it's that person's fault. It's whose fault? It's whose fault? It's not a one person's fault. This is evolution happening. What you've got to know is your navigating tool is that you have a real clear sense in who you are and what you believe. And you don't become a little loose end where you latch on to something hateful as your creed, because that's what made Nazi Germany. Okay, that is worth applauding. Yeah. I said at a workshop a few months ago, I looked at an audience and I said, people were saying, well, I'm looking and I'm searching, looking. I'm going to ask you something. How is it at your age you don't know what you believe? How can you possibly not know what you believe, what your values are, and who you are? How could you possibly not know what beliefs you can draw upon to sustain your soul at your age? How can you not know that? How can you not know how to pray at your age? How can you possibly not know that? How can you possibly not know? I'll tell you what people do know. They know what they don't believe, but they don't know what they do believe. And that's not enough. How can you possibly not know what sustains you? Sustenance. From what do you draw thy sustenance? When you close your eyes and you say, God, give me grace, this is not a rational prayer. It's irrational. But I fully expect to be downloaded. I knew evil was in my room one night, not long ago. I felt something funny in my room. I felt it funny. And I'll tell you another thing I had here in your Southwest, this crazy land you live in. But I knew it. I knew it. Just like I don't know if you ever know what it's like to be around evil, if you felt it. And I immediately said a prayer. I said, you send me some guardian angels, some major league, because there's something dark in here. And it did not occur to me that instantaneously I would not have that. And then I went to sleep. And I could feel it. It didn't occur to me that that would not happen. That the second I asked that would be there. When I hear, put your hands on that person, I know immediately that I'm being told grace is going to run through me and that person's going to get a healing. I'll never see that person again. It doesn't matter to me. I do what I'm told and I go. It doesn't occur to me. And this is what is so extraordinary about this universe. This is a universe run by law. Law. All of those myths are going now because they need to. If you want to understand the nature of God, then take a very good look at how the universe works. It works by law. The laws of gravity, the laws of this, everything is subject to law. Mathematics, everything. What you do, you're held accountable for. What you say, what you think, everything has a consequence. Everything. Absolutely everything. Everything. Everything you feel, everything you say. What you do to the least of everything is done to the whole of everything. What I do to the least of you, I promise you, I am doing to the whole. And it doesn't matter that you can't see it. Who are you to see it? Who do you think you are? Squeeze yourself down to the size you belong and you'll see everything very clearly. Take your shoes off on sacred ground. Stop thinking you know more than you do, because you don't. Stop thinking that because you're someone special, which you're not, you can redesign the design of the universe to suit you. You can decide there's no evil because I don't want there to be. There's only angels, there's not devils. It's this way, it's that way because I want it to be. Who do you think you are? One of the things Teresa of Avila always told her nuns, do you know who she is? You know my Teresa. It changed my life. Everything about my brief encounter with that saint changed my life. And one of the things she told her nuns all the time, she said, you cannot afford to think you're special. You cannot afford to make being special your goal in life. You cannot afford wanting to be noticed your goal, or thinking or telling yourself this nonsense. You were born for something special. Where is that special? Where? Where is Lala Special Land? You cannot afford to tell yourself, I know I was born for special. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? What are you nuts? Do you understand you've set yourself up for a life of torment because you think you're special? That means everything is destined to disappoint you. Everybody, everything, because you need to be so exceptional. Because you want everyone to look at you and the first thing they say is, wow. Because you need to stand out. And all you've done is sign on for suffering. Because you'll never get that kind of feedback. These are the people who name their children Sunshine, Meditation, Karma. See how special my child is? Oh no, not this again. Another special child. My child's so special. And if you don't agree with those idiot people, they cut you out of their will. Get away from me with your special children and their special accomplishments and their specialness and special and special. I wish that word had never been created. You set yourself up. And Teresa would say, go peel potatoes and don't come out of there until you get it in your head that the last thing you are is special, and the last thing you ever want to be. It is a punishment. It's a curse to choose that. And then I'm going to ask you this, like she would ask her nuns. I want you to think about someone you love a whole lot, who loves you a whole lot. Think about someone who loves you a whole lot, a whole big whole lot, a great big huge whole lot. Maybe your husband, maybe your wife, your children, your friends, anyone. I don't care. And I want you to think of yourself looking at that person, but they can't see you. Can you do that? And then I want you to imagine that that person gets up in the morning and thinks, my day, my life, my world is so much better because you're in it. You're in it. And that's how that person thinks. You just keep looking at them, but they're not looking at you. But that's what I want you to think. I want you to think that that's what they think. They think about you. And they think about how much they love you when you're not around. And they think, my world would be devastated if you weren't in there. If you weren't in there. That's how they think. That's how much they love you. They would be devastated if you weren't around. Devastated. And now here, just to put you in perspective. You have no power to make anybody love you that much. Zero. Zero. It's out of your hands, people. That someone would love you so much is what Teresa calls the hand of God in your life. Because you don't have what it takes to have a human heart look at you and love you that much. That is God in your life. That is the grace of God. Because you are powerless next to the power of grace, next to the power of love and the power of God. That is God in your life. And she would say, that is what it's like to know that God is with you at all times, because the things you cannot do are done for you. Love is provided. Blessings are provided. And this is where you look for what she would call God in the small details of your life. In the small, don't you go shoving your face out the window and expecting great destiny to be delivered to your door because you are so special. Because you're not. And now look at this. Everything, the worst things that have ever happened to you, go look for your signature on them because they're there. 90% of the worst things that have ever happened, leave organic stuff out of it, like deaths or family passing. I'm not talking about that. But go look at stuff that has your handiwork in it. And you'll see it's your fear, you're being frightened, you're making bad choices or whatever. So much has your handiwork in it. But the things that have been really beautiful, you had nothing to do with. Meeting the most wonderful people just happened. Just happened. So when I ask you about what is it you believe, what is it you know to be true, you look at this universe and you realize this is a universe that operates on law. That's all there's to it. It's a legal system. What I choose, I'm held accountable for. And nothing can change that. Nothing. This is how prayer works. If you make a choice, you're held accountable. If your prayers go like this, oh God, please take the consequences of my choices away from me, you will not get the answer to that prayer. And then you don't get to say prayer doesn't work. Some prayers cannot be answered that way. Prayers are not answered as if you're a spoiled brat. What you do get is, give me the courage to go through the consequences here, because I've made a mess, and help me not to make a mess again. That gets answered. That gets answered. Then you grow in wisdom. Look at the laws of the universe. They're in you. Gravity. And look at this. This is why I wrote Defy Gravity, because it's in there. If you make a choice, this is why you become conscious. This is what it means to be at a crossroads. You realize, if I make a choice, I'm deciding whether or not to put my energy into something, to take it seriously, to give it gravis, to give it weight, to put my weight into something. Does that make sense to you? As you go through your life, your intuitive system, pay attention to it. It's your inner senses are more accurate than your outer. Your outer senses are all about telling you whether you're safe. Your inner senses are about telling you whether you're wise. Safety, wisdom. This is about truth behind your eye, wisdom and safety in front of your eye. If you are not truthful with yourself, you'll get confused with your intuition. The more honest you are with yourself, the clearer your intuition will be. It's not about diet. It's about integrity. It's as simple as that. It's not complicated, people. It's about integrity. It's always been about integrity. It's about courage. It's about your capacity to trust yourself. The more you trust yourself and make clear choices, the more the choices create a system of, the more the laws of the universe work in a faster, more coherent fashion for you. You know about synchronicity, cause and effect. These laws begin to work more harmoniously for you because you are working more harmoniously within you. That is how the system works. What's in one is in the whole. What's in one is in the whole. This is how it works. This is how you work. This is just how the whole system works. You know, I'm going to, if I may share a story with you, because I love a good story. And it kind of puts things in perspective, I think, a little bit. I was sharing this with, I think stories about healings are great fun. I think stories where phenomenal things happen are worth the telling because they make things razzle-dazzle, don't you think? Yes. Are you in the mood for a razzle-dazzle story, or what are you in the mood for? Okay. So sometimes the craziest things happen, and this is one of those stories that, because I just love it. It's kind of a crazy. You know, years ago I was doing this workshop in England, and it was kind of a crazy thing where I thought that a woman was putting together a workshop, and she was doing it in a large place like this. But she expected this whole room to be full. Well, the night before she was hosting the speakers, and she was hosting it at an Italian restaurant, and she had organized the meal and we were in London, and what they have starters and then the full meal plan. And it all began with the starter being spaghetti bolognese and the dinner being spaghetti bolognese. So the friends I was with looked at me and said, something's wrong here. It's going to be one of those weekends. Anyway, that night, I don't know if I should tell you the risque version of this or not. Oh, well, it's Sunday. Okay, so. Well, so these two, as I was sitting there, these two guys come in, and this is how you can sort of think, this is so absurd that maybe something else has got to happen, because here's a law of the universe. And you be alert for this. God talks to you at all times and in all ways. And one of the laws of the universe is always, you just keep this in your mind. You've got to keep these things in your mind. And I'm going to throw a lot at you. But one of the jewels you have to take with is that the nature of your nature, the nature of life, is that it will always move you, everything, your biology, your soul, the nature of your energetic ecology will always move you to return to balance, no matter what. I'm going to say this again. The nature of all that is your life, inclusive of all your relationships, everything that is your life, everything that is the whole of your life, everything, no matter what tumbles, no matter what happens, no matter what you consider to be a catastrophe, from the vantage point of life, life does not have a word like catastrophe. That's an emotional word. Life does not have an emotional vocabulary. Okay? It doesn't have that. So when you are talking about things that are happening to you, you are better to talk about it without an emotional vocabulary, because life does not have an emotional vocabulary. Just like when someone says nature is angry, don't be ridiculous. That's preposterous. Nature doesn't get angry, we do. Stop projecting ourselves. Stop it. You'll never understand nature. There is always the system returning to balance, and your system will always, always, always return you to balance, no matter what, because it will do that, no matter what that takes. So I'm going to say this again. Your whole system does not, if you can imagine me psychically representing the archetype of return to balance, okay? All right, I'm the mechanism. I'm it. So imagine I'm the mechanism holding your life, like Atlas holding the globe, okay? I do not have a preference for anything in your globe. In other words, one thing's not more important to me than another. I don't care about the furniture in your house. I just care that the house goes back to balance. I don't care. So you say, oh my God, save the frame, save this. I don't hear a thing you say. I just want the whole house to get back to balance. So if the frames break, the mirrors break, the lamps break, I don't care. They're all the same to me. To me, I'm a mechanism. And I need to restore balance in the house as soon as possible. I have no attachment to anything, not to a person, not to a place. If by getting it back to balance, this house and you need to move here, that's where you're moving. Because that's where balance in the whole system will be restored. And if you wake up and you find yourself in West by God, Virginia, that's because that's where balance will be restored. I as your mechanism, your life force, you could say, everything's shutting down here. Everything just shut down here. I thought my life was going to work here. Everything just shut down here. Da, 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 da. What you need, if you could remember what I'm saying to you, it's in that moment, if you could remember this jewel and just hit a pause button and say, wait a minute here. Is my system in chaos returning to balance? Is that what's going on here? And if that's what's going on here, are you better to go with it or to fight it? Now, if you try to fight it, you won't win. You won't win. You won't win. And if you go into the mechanism of chaos and decide that the best route is to blame others and to sue others and to get involved in lawsuits and to take your venom and to look to the past and to target the past and go with harpoons. You can do that. But it will not slow, it will drain you, it will take your lifeblood, it will age you faster, I promise you all of these things will come to pass. I'm not speaking metaphorically. All of these things will happen. You will not fare well. You will not fare well at all. Because the life force itself is moving on. Do you understand me? It's moving on. So you are not getting the participation of your own life force, which is moving on. Which is why you will find trying to hold on to the past and trying to move on, a very exhausting thing to do. It is against the laws of life. I tell you again and again, this is a universe, the way God is manifested. The nature of God is law. How was God expressed in the Old Testament? The 10 Commandments. How is God expressed in the New Testament? The laws of healing, the laws in the Our Father. How did Buddha express God? Law, the 4 noble principles. The way the divine, whatever we call the divine, is expressed is law. Not these fairy tales, but law. All the great teachers teach law. Now you have to understand, that's the nature of God. There's laws in your body. If you eat, what do you think basic primal medicine is? Take this medicine and you'll be sick for 6 weeks. Here, read the label. You don't get better for 6 weeks, according to the law of this medicine. If there wasn't laws, we wouldn't be able to study disease. Everything is law. Okay, are you with me here? And so you've got to learn the law of your psyche. If you follow your own balance, one is power. If I betray myself, I will disrupt my whole power system. If I disrupt my power system, I will pay for it in my biology, and I will pay for it in the whole of my life ecology. Biology, ecology. I'm going to do a class for Hay House called The Anatomy of Your Power. Okay? Your biology is your ecology. One and the same. And then you make your choice. How I become extremely mindful. You cannot be conscious and not be mindful of what you believe, of the power of every word. And I'll leave you with this image. Two things, one holy and one not. This is a very small world we live in now. This is a world where every act of change is universal. We used to think it was private, but it's not. Every act, everything, changes the world immediately. One act on the internet. Everything you do should be considered profound now. Everything. You are very powerful. You are very powerful. Every thought is very powerful. It is irrelevant. I'll speak to you as if I was your spiritual director. And if you were with me privately in the audience, privately in my office, I would say to you, we must work together until you really get that everything you say and think is the most powerful thing. I'll show you how powerful one word is. What if you asked someone, do you love me? And they said, no. No. No, I don't. No. Or they said, yes. One word that big destroys you or resurrects you. One word. That's all. One word. This is how powerful you are. One word can change or break your life. You are this powerful. What is in a word? Everything. Every word you say to another human being makes or breaks them. So start there. And in order to manage your words, here's a small prayer. Teresa said, but it's not so small. When you find yourself losing yourself, shaky, getting on shaky grounds, you're not sure what you believe, but you need to be. Start with something small. Hover over me, God. Hover over me, God. Hover over me, God. Keep watch. That's all. Keep watch. It's enough. It's enough to hold still. I've taught a class online on spiritual direction called Pebbles at the Well. And the first thing that I do in the class, you could download it, is to take you into my office. And the first thing you would ask me if I was your spiritual director is you would say to me, I don't know what I believe. That's the first conversation you would have, and that's the first thing you would say to me. Because it's true, you don't know what you believe, and no one's helped you figure that out. And I would say that's absolutely, you're not even sure what belief is. And that's where we begin in the class. That's where you begin with me. You would say to me, I don't know exactly what I believe. And that's where our conversation begins. And I help you find that out. So if you're interested in that, you can download it. It's 6 hour-and-a-half sessions of my speaking to you that way. Pebbles at the Well. And it begins with this. You take a pebble in you, and I teach you how to wholly listen. Just listen at your well. Just listen. Just listen. So I'll leave you with this. Just imagine you're at a well And you just drop a pebble in yourself. And God, I'm here and I'm listening. There's no more. That's all you have to do. That's all. That's enough. Don't look for your life to change, just a huge big deal. Look for you to change. You. Don't worry about your life. It'll take care of itself. Okay, everybody. Thank you.